ever faced any interviews? Are you expecting to be interviewed? We all know that. Talent is a gift, but the character is a choice. Now it's your time to make it happen. This is a great opportunity to improve your character and skills. Today, we mark our third stage of the IndustPro workshop, and I'm really proud to be able to host it today with all of you. As you all know, we are here to witness how to face an interview. So I would like to introduce our guest speaker. He is currently the COO of Rooster Technology and has 7-year experience in the industry. And he had a bachelor's degree focused on business administration, management, and marketing from Northwood University. He is none other than Mr. Lahiru Aravinthakumar. The virtual stage is yours, Mr. Lahiru.
Hey guys, thanks for the appreciate the introduction. It's quite an exciting one. I do believe we are all just finished wrapping up our studies and going into the corporate world and starting your careers. I'm very excited to talk to all of you all, and thanks a lot for the introductions. Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. I think the stage that Udara set for this conversation today was a pretty interesting one. I think there was a mention about how people set their CVs up, and what happens after that. What happens when you apply for internships? What happens once you get that call to have an interview or to face an interview? And if it's something you're doing for the first time in your life, it can be pretty daunting and can be pretty intimidating. But let's go through a couple of scenarios, and I want to give you guys a brief introduction on if you are stepping out into the corporate world and you're starting your careers, what are the few basic things that you need to take a look at. So just want to really quickly say, if you're busy writing notes or screen recording or something like that, you don't have to write notes. We definitely, the reason we jumped on this call as well is because we have been actively trying to empower the Sri Lankan talent that's coming up right now on how they can, get their CVs made, or, have conversations like this, how to face interviews, how to discuss things like increments, and how to talk about salaries with your boss. So that's definitely something you guys can take a look at after this call. Unfortunately, it is if you can't understand Sinhalese, then you may have to take notes, because the content here on this channel is in Sinhala, because that's where we feel like we need to empower the most talent in this country. So do check it out. It's called Rooster Sri Lanka. So yeah, let's jump straight into the purpose. So these are things that you can Google. For example, what's an interview, what's a CV, what's a cover letter. These are things that you can go online, because we are in the tech field. We can get these information, by the click of a couple of buttons. So just to get this out of the way, let's go ahead and define, what the purpose of an interview is. The interview is a process where you discuss your strengths, your personalities, and if you're a cultural fit. Now, these last 2 points are the ones that are, pretty important, and these are the 2 sections that I want to stress. And as somebody who's interviewed, professionals, to all the way for people who have just done their A-levels, to people who have just come out of university, these are the 2 areas that we feel that people or candidates lack the most. We all know that you first need to submit your CV, right? If you're starting to apply for internship or a job application, a cover letter and a CV, a cover letter if required before jumping on an interview. So you've already given all the important information about yourself to the company, right? The facts, the figures. What you can't convey in a page, or two, that's usually how long a CV is, a page or two, are the emotional components of yourself, right? In fact, if you add, like if you make a long CV or a long cover letter, trying to add these emotional components to a CV, it's very likely that you'll get rejected before you even get a call to the interview. Because your CV can't be too long. Ideally, like I said, it has to be two, maximum 2 pages. But if it's a more specialized uh, if it's a more specialized job position or internship where you need to give in a lot of information. Apart from that, a majority of CVs, if it's more than 2 to 3 pages, you don't even get looked at. You can Google this. It's a very well-known fact. A hiring manager or an interviewer looks at your CV at most, 6 to 8 seconds before they decide whether they are going to shortlist you or call you back for the interview. So your qualifications, strengths, weaknesses, these are facts that you can quickly jot down on a CV. Your personality and whether you're a cultural fit to the organization. Those are the emotional components that you need to start having a conversation with at the interview. Just if I'm going to start speaking on and on, so if you, by any chance, if I lose connections or if you miss a section, please interrupt me and let me know. So I'll be checking Udara from time to time whether you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes, Mr. Lahiru.
Perfect. Awesome.
Got it.
So let's take a look at organizational culture now. This is something that we need to keep in mind. The world is turning into a different place right now. If you speak to your parents or your grandparents, and if you ask them about organizational culture, they're going to give you a very different, like a different idea about what organization culture is. There's a very famous video that's going on LinkedIn and online about how to retain employees. Our grandparents just needed to survive. We are in a generation where we need to make sure that employees, interns, whoever joins the company, they have good quality of life. And this is where organization culture matters. So again, let's define it. You can go on Google if you ask, or if you type in what organizational culture is, this is what you have. Organizational culture refers to the attitudes and behaviors of a company and its employees. What does this mean in English? Right? This is like a definition that we have. How do we turn this into plain old English? It basically says, are you going to last a month, a week at the company, or are you going to last a couple of years? Are you going to be able to develop with the rest of the company, with the rest of the people? That's what organizational culture means. It's very simple to the culture that you all have right now, whether you're Sinhalese, Tamil, or what kind of cultural background, or the community that you're in. That's what matters. And when you're going into an interview, or if you're applying for an organization, the interviewers, the companies are going to pay attention because they don't want to bring in an individual that might not be a cultural fit for the organization, because that's how you maintain, the retention periods of the organizations, and that's how you retain good talent in the company. So where does this tie in? We have a lot of information. I gave you, from applying, starting with your CV. Now you've applied, you've been called into your interview. A lot of people miss this very important fact, which is context is everything. When you sit at an interview, you need to keep reminding yourself, right? Like every time you answer a question, you need to keep reminding yourself that this is an interview, right? Hiring managers and interviews will make you feel comfortable and try and catch you off guard, right? They're very good at doing these things, make you very comfortable. Some interviews are pretty intense, and there can be very rude interviews. But in today's day and world, if you're applying for a tech company, it's very likely that they're going to be very friendly. They're going to try and catch you off guard because they want genuine answers from you. So whenever you are answering a question, or whenever you are, introducing yourself, always keep the context in mind. You are at a job interview, or you are at an internship interview. And you need to remind yourself, okay, if I'm giving an answer, how does this apply to the fact that you are at an interview? And that's the context. So let's tackle this context with, talking about some of the most frequently asked questions. And these questions, honestly, keep getting asked over and over again, especially if you are applying for a internship, or if you're applying for like an entry level job. Just want to make sure that everybody can still hear me. Mic check.
Yes, Mr. Lahiru, go ahead.
So let's break this down. We know that if you Google this again, this is not information that I've come up with. You have your introductions, your work history, your job role details, your interpersonal skills. Now, these are things that obviously you can put in your CV, but again, like I mentioned, how do we relate this information that's in your CV, that's in a piece of paper? How do we convey the emotional side of these information, right? That's what you want to start having this conversation. Let's start with the first question anybody asks you. Tell me about yourself. You go to any interview, 90% of the time they're going to be like, tell me about yourself. Like sometimes they use it as an icebreaker, and and most of the time they also use it to see if you know the context. Now, for myself, if I had when I was asked for an introduction to so that the team here can post it saying, this is what I do. I do also have a side of me that is in content creation, that does, photography and filmmaking. But if I come to this meeting here and say, hey, I am a filmmaker, a content creator, that immediately is the wrong context, right? You guys are here to talk to me about, the corporate world, try and get some information about how you can, get better at sitting for interviews. So that itself is context right there. So when you're introducing yourself, do not go and talk about, where you came from, what your school is, where you got your education qualifications from. Do not start with that, because that's already there in the piece of paper that you have. What you need to do is, for example, if you chose to do an IT degree, what is the emotional reason behind you choosing that? What inspired you when you were a kid, or who inspired you to choose that field? And when you're talking about, why you applied for this company, now this is a very important question. I've had hundreds and hundreds of interviews with people, and I always ask in this question, what do you know about the organization, or why did you apply? Now, if you think about it, if you're applying for a job interview or for an internship, there's no way you know more about the company than the interviewer or the HR or the hiring manager. So they're not asking this information from you. What they're doing is, have you put some time into preparing? Have you researched about who are the important players in the company, who the CEOs are, who the COOs are? Did you care enough to do a bit of research? Now, these are all emotional things, right? Like if you really ask why, why did you apply for this company? It's because you wanted the job. You just done your studies. You have to apply for an internship now, because without that you can't. You don't have a career. So these are the logical reasons that we all know. But we have to turn this into an emotional situation where you have to look at the company that you're applying, look at the culture of the company, take a look at some of their awards that they've got, some of the, key products. You definitely have to know what the company's products and services are. When you care enough about the company, you will know this. So these are the things that interviewers and hiring managers are looking for. How do you relate the emotional aspect in an interview? Let's quickly jump on to the next question. Give me a second. So this is the next most frequently asked. What are your biggest challenges, right? So let's think about this question, because I personally hate this question, but it's a very good question if you're asking, especially if somebody who is just starting out their career, right, or who is just in the beginning of their career. You can judge a person by how they answer this question. Again, let's go back to context. I've put it at the bottom of every slide. What's the context of this question? What's your biggest challenge? The context is we are assessing your interpersonal skills. How have you dealt with human beings? A company um, um, is built, nowadays we're working remotely, but at some point you have to disagree with your boss, disagree with your peers. So you need to take a look at your career. If you're a student, it could be situations where, while you were doing a project, you were disagreeing with people. So let's start relating those questions. Let's not talk about how you got bad marks, and you couldn't deal with it, or you had to figure out how to. So you need to understand the context. Okay, what are your big challenges? If I'm hiring you to my company, um, have you been in a challenging situation where you had to, deal with other people? It could be also how do you deal with failure, stuff like that. Yeah, but you always want to take a look at a unique perspective. You can go and talk about how you were, upset that you couldn't achieve a certain thing, but always try and dig in and look at the emotional aspect of this question, and understand what the context is. So I'm only highlighting like the important stuff. So because these are things that a lot of people need, because you already know how to talk about everything else. So my goal here is to make you understand that uh, interview or the interview process is how you connect your emotional side to the logical side, or to the facts and figures of your CV and your career. So I'm going over the most important sections for you. If you Google all these other stuff that people it's freely available. These small things I'm talking about are the ones that are not very easily accessible. So just keep that in mind as we go. Let's talk about strengths and weaknesses. Again, this is one of the most frequently asked questions. Why do people ask this question? So that you can have a moment to boast about your strengths and weaknesses. And actually, most of the time, people don't even know what to say, especially the youngsters that just come into the field. The answer that we get all the time is, "I really haven't thought about it," when they have to talk about their weaknesses. And when they have to talk about their strengths, they just give one-liners. When you're at an interview, no matter what question is asked from you, never give one-liners. A one-liner is like a "oh never," or like just yes, no, sir. Yeah, don't answer any question with one sentence. So let's again take a look at the context here. What are your strengths? Here, people or the interviewer is asking you if you are observant enough to look within, and try and figure out what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, because it takes a while for you to figure this out. And once you do state, let's say, hey, I'm really good with Microsoft Excel, or whatever it is, um, don't stop there. If you say I'm good at Microsoft Excel, that's a one line, right? Take that conversation, or take that conversation piece and say, hey, I'm good at Microsoft Excel, but within the next couple of months, within the next couple of years, I plan on doing a few exercises, or taking up a few courses, or following a few key YouTube channels just to learn a couple of things online. Now, these are things that you can take this one boring sentence and turn it into a conversation, right? You're getting the interviewer and the hiring manager emotionally invested in everything that you have to say. And when you're talking about weaknesses, you need to always turn it into another conversation piece. Let's break it down into 3 sections, especially when you're talking about your weaknesses. How did you first you state what your weakness is? How did you identify your weakness? Now, this is very important. You can't just say that, hey, I'm bad at time management. Then we all know that you're lying. Or whoever is interviewing you knows that you're just making it up for the sake of the interview. You need to explicitly give an experience or an incident that happened before this interview that brings out this fact. When did you identify this? How did you come across the fact that you learned that you had these weaknesses? And that's not enough. You can further elaborate and say, hey, um, uh, what can I do, or what am I planning to do? What's my plan? What's my 3-step plan or my 3-month plan to try and reduce this weakness? What am I going to do? Am I going to work on it? Or are you just going to say, hey, this is my weakness and stop there? So so that's again how you can tackle, okay, what's the context of the question? And when I spoke about these most frequently asked questions, I'm always thinking to myself, hey, I'm at an interview. I need to give an answer that is suitable and that's genuine to yourself. So context is everything. Another way to know that, okay, hey, your answers aren't that great is if you talk about your strengths and weaknesses, and if you say, hey, I'm bad at time management, or my strength is time management, just take a look at the person sitting next to you. Can it apply to that person as well? When you talk about your values, your strengths, and your experiences, if you're saying something at a job interview that somebody else can also say, then it's a bad answer, or it's just a vague answer. It means that you haven't prepared. But if you relate a story to that, time management, I'm bad at time management. How do I know this? I had to do an assignment in a week, and this is what happened. These are the professors that were involved. Then we know it's a genuine story. So whenever you're saying something, make sure you differentiate it so that it doesn't apply to the person sitting next to you. Just a quick mic check to make sure I haven't lost anybody. You guys hear me?
Yes, Mr. Lahiru. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
perfect.
audible.
Perfect. So my um, final component that I want to leave everybody with is practice, practice, practice. How do you go to an interview for the first time? And when somebody asks you, hey, what are your strengths and weaknesses, or give me a brief introduction about yourself, how would you know to assess the context of that question then and there? You can't. You have to go online, Google, what are the most common, frequently asked 20 questions. These are there online for a reason because they keep getting asked over and over again. So go to a mirror. I'm pretty sure you've heard this phrase over and over again. Go in front of a mirror and talk to the mirror and present, and say, just say this is what you're going to say, and never um, like never write things down and like try and read things out of a piece of paper, or don't memorize what you're going to say, because then the whole point of you getting into an interview, getting into um, uh, any sort of job application process where you're talking to somebody, you're trying to evoke emotions, because you can't be logical. You can't read a piece of paper and say, these are the things that I've done, these are the things that are great in my life. As soon as you do that, you're breaking that emotional connection with an interviewer. You're not saying that I'm a cultural fit, that this is my personality. So if you want to make sure that these things come out, and that you're a unique person, you need to practice beforehand so that you have a sense of what you're going to say. And when people ask you, you can immediately jump on and say this and this and this. So make sure you practice. Just to recap, before I end. So an interview is, like I said before, an interview is where you make an emotional connection with the organization or the interview or the hiring manager. At an interview, you need to make sure that you highlight your personality and that you show that you understand the organizational culture, you understand the values of the culture. Because if you want to just boast about yourself and boast about your skills, and talk about how good you are at things, they already know all of this information. You've given them a CV, if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's very likely that they've taken a look at it. So you need to focus on how do I show that I've understood the culture, understood the values, and context is everything. I cannot stress this enough. It doesn't actually apply to just your interview. Context is everything. It applies to your life, right? Like when you're at a business meeting, when you're going on a date, or when you're, with your significant other. Like these are things that you need to remember, and make sure that you don't forget. So just to wrap things up, I do want to talk about Rooster. Just you guys, if you have any questions so far, I'm sorry, this is not Rooster.jobs. This is rooster.org. I'll send a message email through correcting this. But if we take a look at rooster.org, the reason we are passionate about this is because we have a job board where if you are applying for internships, we have a bunch of companies that are doing posting internships on a regular basis. We are very heavily IT based, and our second is finance. So if you have problems with this, we are going to start a campaign from next month onwards, reaching out to all the candidates that have a profile set up at rooster.job. So what essentially you have to do is just sign in. You can create your profile. So this is my profile. You give a brief description of your career. You can give your skills here, your job expectations, your salary expectations. So this profile is what these companies use to reach out to you. Once they post a job here, if these skills match up with your profile's skills that you've mentioned here, they get the opportunity to reach out to you and speak to you and invite you to apply for their jobs. So which is why creating a profile here is advantageous for you, that you have a list of applications that you sent out to, if you've got any requests. So this is a great place to start. So let me go back to the slide. So that's definitely a really good place to start. Go and check rooster.jobs out. And like I said, if you start creating profiles from next month onwards, we're going to start having one-on-ones with candidates, especially people who are not very active or don't have an extensive portfolio. We're going to sit down with them and start assessing their CVs, try and give them a little bit of direction. So it might be useful for you guys. And also, as I mentioned before, we do have a YouTube channel where we want to keep empowering young talent. Sri Lanka's #1 asset is the human resource. And prior to working with Rooster Technology, I used to work for a subsidiary of YouTube that was set up here in Sri Lanka. Nobody knows this, but these companies are here, and we have so many talented individuals in this country that that have the technical skills, and we just need to guide them in terms of how to speak to people and how to have difficult conversations. So that is it from my end. How do we go about? Is there a question and answer section that we need to go through? How does it work?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lahiru, for your wonderful speech. So guys, if you have any questions or any clarifications, feel free to ask from Mr. Lahiru. You guys can unmute yourself and ask, or you guys can use the chat box also.
Yeah, of course. And if you have any, the team has my email address as well. Even if after this you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them at me. Any questions? Going once? Going twice? I guess we're good. Perfect. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the time listening to my rant. Hopefully, sometimes I just uncomfortable when I mention weaknesses. So this is like the reason. So the question is, what if you're uncomfortable to talk about your weaknesses? Because you probably are in a place where you're insecure to talk about them. It's a valid question. The reason we want candidates to talk about their weaknesses is because we want to assess whether they're being genuine or not. Like I said, company culture is becoming more and more important as we go into, the new age of tech, and we are having these conversations like on Zoom. But 2 years ago, we would have had these like workshops in person. So assessing people's authenticity, it applies in everything that you do right now. It's not only job interview. So you being able to talk about these things is very important. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, you have to start practicing, like identify if you know you have your weaknesses. Like I said, break it into parts. Tell people what your weakness is. Once you tell them that, give them the history. How did you identify the weakness? And once you have that, you can then tell them what your plan is to fix or to reduce. You can't completely get rid of weaknesses, but to fix it. So when you break it down into sections like that, and you break it down into tiny parts like that, it makes it very easy to talk about it. So yeah, you can use that method to just make conversations easy. Any answer. If you're talking about your strengths or weaknesses, what was the weakness? How did you identify? What are you going to do to fix it? So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Nanduru. Perfect. Any other questions, guys? Apparently, this is the worst part of any presentation in Sri Lanka is like seeing if people have questions. I think it's a cultural thing as well for us. We're very reluctant to ask, but if you present to another country, my God, the questions. It's not a disadvantage or an advantage. It's just how we are, and I understand that. So which is why I dropped my email. Let me drop my email again here. So if you have any questions later, you can definitely shoot us an email. Awesome. I guess we can wrap up.
Randall, do you want to ask any questions? I have seen that you are.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, yes, I got some questions. I just go through some of the interviews in career fair of IIT. So what I noticed is sometimes in HR aspect of interviews, they are so much friendly for us, but sometimes we have seen there are some kind of attitude when we went one to one person. So I just feel sometimes they ask about why you doing this and what is the how the country condition also going there. So what is your roadmap for your future like that? So sometimes I saw that my colleagues also answering that questions sometime repeating everything again and again. So what I mentioned is I just mentioned my future plans. Is that we need to mention, or any other comments from you?
No. So this is a very good question. Like, are you asking if you talk about your future plans and if your future plans require you to leave the country, or if it requires you to, switch jobs in like a year, does this affect your chance of getting a job?
Yes, exactly.
That is what. So this is a very good question. If you're in the tech field, at least for the past couple of years, that it's a very volatile job anyway, right? Because you have so much competition. What you need to start practicing is start speaking the truth. If that is the case, if you are in a situation where, hey, I want to see what I can do in a year. And if the country situation doesn't get better, I am going to look for other places. That could be true to you as well. Like if you perform really well in a year, and if the organization doesn't have like a career development opportunity for you, you will definitely will look elsewhere. And these are actually, when you address these things confidently, these can be plus points for you because you say that you have a plan. You can always talk about not maybe switching companies, but in a year I want to be like a tech lead, or I want to be in this kind of position, right? And if I don't get these positions, then I'm going to be looking for this. So letting your intentions or being honest in a conversation is very important. And you can't worry about losing an opportunity simply because it doesn't align with your values, right? If you want to hold a job, if you're somebody that wants to switch jobs every 2 or 3 years so that you can make yourself or make your life a lot interesting, right? Because then you have to talk about your work-life balance, right? So you can't necessarily avoid your interview being prejudiced and thinking that, okay, this guy is just trying to leave in a year. He just wants to get some experience and jump the boat. You can't really help that. But you can make sure that you tell that very respectfully. Make sure that you say, these are my plans. This is what I hope to be. Or this is where I want to be in a year or two, and be very honest with where you want to be in your life. And just hope that it aligns with the company as well. It's a good question. That is definitely why they want to ask it as well. Sometimes they want to know whether are you trying to leave or not. And if you are trying to apply for a company that wants to have that control, it's good to avoid a company like that. You can, because you are also a skilled employer. You are working on yourself. You're developing your career. You have the power to work at a company that values you. And if they're trying to figure out whether we have to worry about him leaving or not, it's not a good company to apply for.
Yes, so it's sometimes tricky when they're asking some kind of question. So that's why sometimes we're troubling,
Yeah.
like going on running around our mind.
Mm-hmm.
What should I say now? So yeah, I think that's good. Being honest and
yeah, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, it is a difficult question, so I'm glad you asked it.
Guys, do you have any questions?
To contact Mr. Lahiru Aravinthakumar, email via Lahiru. Yes, that is right. You can drop me an email. Perfect.
All right, guys, if you have any questions, you can contact Mr. Lahiru through his email. So thank you very much, Mr. Lahiru Aravinthakumar. So it's time to extend our gratitude to Mr. Lahiru Aravinthakumar with the token of appreciation.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right,
thanks for having me.
Now I'm going to introduce our next speaker. He's currently working as an associate tech lead from 99X. He has 6+ years of experience in the industry on full stack web application development and mobile development. He had 3-year experience in Embla Software Innovation Private Limited as a senior software engineer. He is none other than Mr. Chamil Kadambi. Mr. Chamil, the virtual stage is yours right now.
Thank you guys for inviting me to do this. Let me share my presentation. Yeah, I think you all can see it. Yes.
It's visible.
Yeah, so starting with this, just want to know this all-round technical platform, right? Who want to be a QA? Can you raise your hands? Just so I can focus on these areas. Who wants to be QS? I just want to know how many are there. Okay, not QS. Who want to be devs, developers? Okay, there's 1, 2. Okay, yeah, that's quite a number. So, okay, who want to be UX, UI, or BA? Okay, we have that category as well. Okay, right, good. Thanks, guys. So I will start, but points are covered by Lahiru as well. It's a good presenting as well. So starting with this, I will start with the resume because it is the place you are going to be looked at the first time by the interview guys. So we have made it the part of the CV. You should. So we have to add skills, technologies, and frameworks. So just add the keywords. So as a tip, I want to give you because when they look at the CV for the first time, the technical guys, so they are going for that part. So they know that the job need a PHP developer, C# or Java developer. They are going for the skills part or technologies. So if he doesn't have a Java, then they have in the mind, oh, if I hire this guy, we have to give like lot of KTs, lot of learning circles, but that's not bad actually, because I have switched myself from different technologies, so that wasn't what affect at all. But for your safety, just put those as well. And maximum 2 pages, definitely. I don't know, will I agree on with this? But if there was only 1 page, it's not good on the technical side. We will look at it that this guy doesn't have done projects or doesn't have anything to at all or work experience, because work experience is also fine because you are going to the industry, you won't have work experience, but you have to add the projects what you have done with description and everything. So this is example which I am putting here. On the left side, you can see the skills with the progress bar. So I highly recommend not to do this, because assume that these are not from the CV of the technical guy, but assume these skills can be like OOP concepts, design patterns. So if you have scored around 80% of the design patterns, so they know that it is a lie actually, right? So you can't do that. Even though if I rate for myself, if I rate on design patterns, it will go around out of, I will rate 3 out of 5 maximum. So that's how it is. So even for C# or Java or something, I can rate up to level 3 out of 5. So if I have seen a lot of CVs who are doing this, then we advise them on the interview as well not to do that, because it will give a wrong idea about yourself. On the right side, this is experience. So same like this, you can put the projects you have done, and please add not just the title, please add on the points that the things you have done, what is the responsibilities, what are the technologies you have used, those things, not the whole areas. Just put 3 points or 4 points, and put the technologies you have there also, C# or Java or SQL or databases or whatsoever, right? So because this is the first glance when the technical guy looking at it, he doesn't have time to read everything. He just going for the keywords. So if he sees Java, if you are hiring for the Java, he look at that. So yeah, maybe it's not the correct way, but I know it is always not fair. But for the profile picture, other things. So this is like a technical area, right? Not like other industries. So you don't need to have the best profile picture in the best attire, everything, and the dress code and full professional, not that. But on the leftmost one, don't put this kind of things. So, and the middle one is too professional, but I would suggest with the right part of it, not the same suit, but that kind of small smile in your face. Because when a technical guys, maybe your leads is hiring you for the team, they don't want you to be a headache to the team. So they want to be like a normal friendly people who can talk with others, who can have no lies or no secrets within the project, have open conversations, because almost all the IT teams is like a self-managed team. So they don't have the specifically like large hierarchies in the team, all sitting together, they are working together. So that the personal experience you are sharing, that's you are a friendly guy, or those things is matter. So not just matter, but if you can have kind of this in CV, that would really matters. So before you start, first thing, you need to go to washroom and make yourself easy. So because it's a technical question, technical so many questions, then you want to go to washroom, that's not a good thing to do. Yeah, thanks, Lahiru. If it's virtual, keep a pen and paper with you, so you can write your notes. So if someone is saying that the things you ask, they are asking, you don't know, then you can write it down. They know, they can see also you are writing it down. That's a good point, right? They know then you are willing to learn some things, that you are writing down this I went wrong. So then they get the idea. Even though I do when I'm interviewing some people, if they are writing down the things, normally I ask what we are going to write down, then they say, then I get a plus point, right? So they want to learn this, because technology is not like if you are going to learn in the university and just practice. It's always keep learning and learning. The technology which is being 2 years back is not the same as now, because you have to keep up to date, because otherwise you will be out in the industry definitely. And do not try to remember the theory at last time. So some people just before go to the interview room, or either it's a virtual one, just try to memorize what is OP. Okay, I forget one thing. So they are panic at that time. So don't do that. Just keep yourself calm. So if it's on-site, take a good look at the room and be comfortable. So taking about these interviews, it's not like a series of interviews happening to multiple persons within the same day. So technical interviews are not like that. They are giving the time, asking you what is the free for you the time. Carry fare is not included to this, but for the on-site ones. But in that situation, most of the time you are waiting in the lobby to be someone from HR or that interview people can accompany you to there. So if HR people or HR guy come to you and greet you and welcome you and they are taking you to the room, you have to wait until then. So you can get a good glance at the room, what was there, nothing too specific, because if you didn't glance when you are doing the interview, if you saw something like if you see a PlayStation 5 on your right side, okay, yeah, in the interview you want to see that, you want to see that what is that. So don't be that person. So just make it comfortable what is around yourself and everything. If it is virtual, so draw.io, the spelling is wrong myself, I'm there, sorry for myself about that. Draw.io, anything you can draw in virtual, you can share your screen, something like that, keep it in hand. So that is when they ask you to draw the structure or the architecture of your mini project or the project you have done, you can just draw them and show them. So that's the very much plus point, because try to keep them so they know you are ready for the interviews as well. Yeah. And I think you all have heard about what are the GitHubs. So even though whatever project like a developer, QA or the UI UX you are going to do, you may have your own projects, keep them on the GitHub and make them public. So no source, no, if there's, it's okay for open them for public and no issue or any piracy issue, anything happens. Otherwise, keep them in public and share those GitHub project links whenever they are requested. Most of the time they may going to request. Otherwise, if they request, you can ask them, just ask them, I have the project in my GitHub, this is the link, you can see them. So sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't. Maybe however the guy who is explaining or the answering the question, the way he speaks, we know that this guy is telling the truth or he is just making up the things about the project. Then that kind time we might go to the project and see, but it's always good to keep the links of the GitHub projects of yours. If you are done in mobile apps, keep them loaded in your phone. Don't try to load them at the time of interview. These are just before the interview starts, right? So don't try to load them at the interview. Load them and log in, and keep the page on the first page which has the most attractive face of it. So that's the first impression, right? Not the dull page, not the dull page. Definitely with so much content and whatever the most attractive page on that device. If it is on-site, try to get an idea about the office while waiting in the interview, because you can see people are going here and there, how they are speaking, how they are behaving, what are their dress code, is it going to match what you're going to do. You can get a glance. So when people, the tech people asking question in the interview, so I will give examples later, you can think of what kind of culture they are maintaining in the office. You can answer with according to them. I will explain later with some examples. You will get the first one. So again, get ready for the first question. They are asking to introduce about yourself, what you're going to say. So I'm not going to say that what you should do, but you can, there are a lot of introduction videos also. You can think what you can say, but careful about what you're going to say. If there is a whiteboard in the room, so you have to keep in your note in your mind. There's a whiteboard, they may ask me to draw, so get ready for that as well. So in the kickoff, when they starting, so there will be 2 or 3 persons, because normally in the tech interviews there are no interviews with one person. So definitely there will be 2 or 3 persons to get the balance output from all, and try to greet them friendly, because IT interviews are, I would say, most friendly, but don't go too much into friendliness and don't talk about the family stuff and the country stuff, countries things. They may ask you, what do you think about this? Because the question that we are asking that these days, even though I'm asking that, what do you think about the country situation? That it's not about asking his opinion about the country. It's about asking how much he want to share his own thought with the corporate world, because in our situations we are working with foreign countries. In our situation we are working in Sweden and Norway, most probably, because now we don't want to give them the bad experience of what happening in Sri Lanka these days. It's not It's not like hidden from anyone, but we don't want to say that. So that's why we are asking that. What you think about the country? So if you say again, this guy is bad, this happening is bad, or those things. So we'll judge that if you are hired for the team, and if client is asking these days these things, because they are too friendly also, they are just not professionals. They are professionals, but they are not always professional talks. They are asking friendly also. Then you might tell these things. So don't do that. But you have to answer that we are struggling, but we are trying to come up with the situations, and definitely we will come forward with that. So some positive feedback or positive vibes you have to give, right? So I will go with 3 interviews. For first, I will start with Dev, what we are going to ask. So this will be a cheat sheet. You can take the screenshot. I don't know. It's recorded, no need, right? So first, they are going to be asked about the project, what you have done. Definitely you are going to do a project. If not, do a project, then start now. Because when you are entering into the industry as a fresher, there's no other questions we can ask. We cannot ask your previous project, previous experience, what you have done. We don't have. So we are going to ask from the project itself. You are going to ask for the architecture, the technologies, the reason why you have chosen technologies. Some projects, people say that why you have chosen this technology. They said that the lecturer told us to do that. Okay, that's fine. Then we are asking, do you think this is the best technology to be used? They may say yes. Okay, if you are saying yes, what are the justification points you have taken? This is the best technology you are going to use. So it's not easy. So like Lahiru said, don't answer just yes or no. Please answer with yes, then justify your answer. So that's there. Then we are going to definitely go with OOP. Okay, this is going to be in YouTube, right? Yeah, okay. So definitely going to be asking the OOP. If you are asking them to describe OOP, tell all 4 OOP concepts. Then ask, do I need to explain them also? So if they will say yes, then you have to explain them. Try to explain with one of the aspect which is in the project, because now the project is familiar for those guys, right? So you can expect you can explain something or some module or some entity or something from the project and explain it, or otherwise take some actual object in the interview room. So that's good. If you have a TV or a large monitor, take that. If you have a table or pen or offices or small cubicles, take that and explain with that. And they will go into ask databases. So those are normal questions, not into specific ones, normalizations, indexing, those are the things going to ask. Then the 4th one is the most one. You should have some idea of the data structures. So it's a vast topic. I'm not going to explain, but how do I going to sort, and those things have a great in mind, because we are using these day by day. From all my 6 years experience, I have used data structures in my projects, because that's a must. And having a mobile platform, learning a mobile platform, it's a plus point. So try to, even though I didn't ask that, try to mention it that I have the knowledge on that as well. So then the next point is design patterns. So there are around 23 design patterns. No need to memorize them all. Even I can't remember everything. That's fine, but there are mostly frequently used ones. So keep them in mind, how the classes are made, how the entities are made, what is the purpose of having a design pattern. So then they are going to ask you MVC. MVC is going to ask you if you are only fresher most of the time, because otherwise if you are experienced, they are not going to ask MVC, because that is much simple, but you should know MVC. And they are going to ask about the front end, because that doesn't mean the previous questions are back end, but the front end, the JavaScript side is acting a very weird way. It's like the prototyping is there, lots of concepts there. Now there are a lot of microservice, and the new trends are coming to the front ends as well. And that is there. Okay, let's go with the QA now. I'm not a QA. Sorry, I cannot explain into so many in detail in each point, but these are the things they are going to ask. So they are going to ask about the process from requirement gathering to delivery, how you track the bug, or what is the QA's objective. It's not just testing. So there are a lot more than that. So they are going to ask analytical question. Example, how to test a pen. So that's the most common nowadays. They are not going to ask that. That was the popular question when we are trying to when we are trying to get into the industry. So then we are going to ask testing scenarios. So examples, path loading, boundary level. So they are going to ask. So there are so many. I'm just putting the points only. They are also going to ask about your final project or the mini project you have done. So if you are going as a QA, they are going to ask what are the QA processes you have taken to mitigate the defects or anything like that. Right? Then going to how you are doing the scenario distribution in the application and how you handle the risks. So risk not just the defects. So QA is also responsible for delivery of the project as well. It's not the dev task, it's the delivery of the project is responsible for the Q. So if you want to deliver the 2 months, within 2 months, so risk is you have to finish that project in 2 months. Now you have not started, that's the risk. Then you have to draw a roadmap. So those are QA tasks most of the time. I don't know, maybe depends from the company to company. It may change a bit, but those are most of the time QA tasks. Then challenges you have faced within the team about the technology or the team members. That should be they are going to ask, and you have to answer that. Don't say we didn't have any challenge. You will definitely have a challenge, right? So it is about the mini project, of course, about it that. And they are going to give us case study to you. This is the scenario. They are going to ask from these things, but there won't be any technical programming things. But if you are going for automation, QA, there will be scripting parts they are going to ask. Okay, finally, they are going to ask with the what are the included in the test cases and so on. So UI UX interviews. So the BA also is going to be same because I couldn't find a BA in our company because we are not hiring BAs. So UI UX guy is also acting as BAs. So that's why. And for the UI UX, you are submitting your CV or resume. That's fine. But take your portfolio with you. So that's definitely should be there because I asked few UX guys to make this slide. If you don't have a portfolio with you, well, then they are rejected, right? So have your portfolio pretty creative, not too much fancy, not like dumb Regin or anything, right? Don't do that. So keep your professionalism there to that you can you are going for the UI UX. You can get a lot from Pinterest and so many places. You can get the ideas, and they will going to ask you persona creation, how the user personas are created, what are the requirements you are going to create based on which ones, and journey maps, how you are going to create, and wireframe tools and prototyping tools like Figma, XD, those kind of things. And HTML and CSS is a must to you to learn, but if you know the JavaScript, it's a plus point. That's not required, but always it's better to have a plus point. And they also asking how you test the users. The user testing is not QA part. This user testing for UX, user experience part. So analytical questions they are going to ask, what are the difference between quantitative and qualitative. And they are also going to explain about the project. You're going to ask you about explain about your last project and going to ask question from that. Okay. So in the interviews, what should do things you should do? Okay, try to keep yourself calm. You may miss question. Right? You may think you missed 3 or 4 questions. You are going for pressure, right? No need to panic. That's okay. Keep yourself calm. Try to answer the rest. Because if they see you that you are going to be panicked, so it's not about your technical issues. It's about your personally, right? So if the client, when you are hired, if the client is going to ask you things and questions, and if you're panicked then and there, so that would be a problem for the whole company as well. So that's the thing. Try to keep calm and listen to question carefully. If not clear, ask to repeat only once. So you can ask, I didn't get that. Please, can you elaborate more? So they will ask the question with examples. Sometimes they are too friendly like that, even though I'm doing that. So if virtual, do the interview in your quiet room, because there was once interview which I had done. He was, when we were all booked with 1 week ahead. So when the interview started, he is in the station, the train station, right? So we didn't say anything, but we did the interview. He's not selected because it's about the attitude of his, like his dedication, that he really wants the job. He should have been some clear pace, at least internet cafe or something, at least. I'm not saying to go to internet cafe or interview, but at least some quiet environment, right? Ask question from the panel if you have given time. You should do that. What is the team? What is the team consist of? What I am going to learn if I am hired? What I can learn from your team? So that you should ask, because if you can't gain anything by joining that team, you may think that don't join that, right? Because either you should get paid higher, or you should get something. So those are the only things you should be kept in only one job, right? So the last thing, Lahiru also mentioned that you will be asked this from the, not from the HR, this from the technical guys, this from the same team you are going to hire into, your goal within five years. If you say you are going to be a tech lead in 5 years, okay, it's very hard goal, right? So based on all these are going to be asked in the last, your goals. So when they're asking this, they know what is your talent and everything. If you said you are going to be a tech lead in 5 years, but you have not performed that much in the interview, so now they know this, you are just telling answers and you are lying. So what will happen if you lie? Things not to do, don't lie in the interview, because you may think you have done a great new project, new technologies and everything, but the basics are pretty much same for the technical. So if you are going to lie in the interview, I have done this with this technology and this is the new trend and those are there, then and there they think this is a lie. They don't tolerate lie at all. I don't tolerate at all, actually, because it's not about me interacting with you, it's about yourself interacting with the client. So because in our company, in 99X and previous project, and before that company as well, so we are directly dealing with clients. There are no middle layers, like there are no project managers. There are managers, but even though we are directly dealing with clients, so assume that they are not Sri Lanka, especially from Norway and Sweden, they respect what you say. If you do tell a lie into one time to the client, all the times after that, they are thinking you are lying. So that's not good for the company. That's not good for the team as well. For the lead and the delivery manager, it is a headache then. So they don't want you in your project. So don't lie. If you don't know the answer, try to think. Take 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. Try to think, and you can, if you can remember somewhat around that answer, try to give. Don't go around the circles every time. Just go to the point, but try to give. I remember these places I have done like this. Is that we are asking? He said, no, it's not that asking. Sorry, then I don't know. That's, saying you don't know is okay. But if you're going for the lead, then those things, say you don't know matters. So don't do that. But if you're going as a fresher, saying you don't know, it's okay, rather than telling a lie. And another thing in the CV, don't put a language as a skill or technology or framework if you have only done those in tutorials in YouTube or whatever. People are doing that. So I got a CV that he has done PHP, Java, C#, JavaScript, Angular, React, so many. But he has done only Java on hands. All others are just tutorials. Because whatever you put in the CV, technical guy is going to ask questions on that. Right. So those are the basics. Let me give you a hint as well. I don't know, Lahiru tolerate this one. So get a target, the company you want to go. Target not one or two, and go to several other companies for interviews for mockups. Even though when I come into 99X, that's my secret. I had 2 companies in my mind. I had Kelsey, 99X, Cisco. I participated all 3, but before only I participated 2 or 3 mock interviews with other companies. I'm not going to go there but I just want to make myself out of pressure of the interviews, right? They are asking so many questions, then it's even hard for me that they're asking in the lead levels, right? So so that's my plus point. Just do a mock interview, but you need to keep your target. I'm going to this company. Then when you are ready and everything, you don't have any hassle or anything at all, just go to the interview. You will nail it down, definitely. And keep in mind the things you are unable to answer, just note it down, read them and find the answers, what I went wrong, something like that. And yeah, that would be a good point as well. And always try to do a research about the company you're going to work with, because that's not just they're asking from you, it's about when you're giving answers, that if you know that this company is going with the C# and they are following this kind of design patterns, you can always give answers that, okay, even though they are not telling you we are doing that design pattern, you can say, okay, I have done a lot of projects with the observable design pattern, for example. So if the company or the tech team is using observable a lot, this is just a flat point. He already knows that. We hiring him is a good plus point for the team. So that's how you're going to market yourself. Okay, yeah, that's it from my end. Yeah. Yes, Lahiru, yes, practicing and practicing, I know.
Thank you, Mr. Chamil, for your wonderful speech. So guys, if you have any questions or any clarifications, feel free to ask from Mr. Chamil. And yeah, you guys can unmute yourself and ask, or you guys can use the chat box also.
Flutter is good to learn as a UX UI developer. Okay. That's I said, for UX UI developer, always a plus point to have JavaScript. But if you know the programming language, it's also a plus point. But if you are only planning to go with UI and UX in developer in the future, learning Flutter, okay, learning Flutter can be advantage, but not that deep down. You have to focus more on the creating user views and understanding the user behaviors, most of the BA sites, because when the 99x is hiring, we are hiring BAs plus UX plus UI, all three together. But if you focus more on development side, you will lose other two, right? So that's why you have to balance yourself. What can we add instead of skill level bars in the CV? Just add points, dot points or whatever, list or whatsoever. Add like keywords, something like that. Don't add bars. So I won't judge, but some people there who are going to judge you. Any more questions?
Yeah, Shana, do you have any question? You
yes,
can
hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Hi, Lahiru. Yeah, I'm Shinal. I'm currently looking for an UI UX internship. So I don't really have any much experience in the area. So I just want to know what you're looking for when you're actually hiring an intern to your company.
Ask from Lahiru, right?
Oh wait, who was that directed towards me?
That was actually directed to Chamil, but
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. You said you do ask from Lahiru. That's why. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. So the UI UX, that's the things like you have to understand how the user personas are written. So persona creation is the main task you need to understand. It's not about technical, but HTML and CSS is there. Having JavaScript is a plus point, is the reason that you don't need to go into technical sites. That's why you need to understand how the users think. So we cannot do that. I'm a developer. We have the understanding of this much there. We know that if the task is need to be done in the website, if you do more than 3 clicks, that's a bad UX. We know that, but UI UX guys, they describe it in other way, and they have a lot more knowledge in other areas as well. So if you are going to focus on technical, you will lose that side. So go with understanding the user personas and mastering the Adobe XD, how you're going to draw those things, and yeah, analytical things. That's enough for the entry as a fresher or trainee. But later there will be changes. I cannot say that now. Even I say this is today valid, but it won't be valid in 3 or 2 years. So yeah.
When it comes to an internship, Chamelaya, do you look for like qualifications and all, or if you can get the job done, are you in? Is there
No,
something like that?
just
Because
get the
that
job done.
yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just all developers in a team tends to follow coding patterns. Commenting, naming convention, file architecture, do they have the freedom to follow anything? No, because those standards are made by the developers itself. So when you are joining, their team has their own standard because they have their own wiki pages and everything telling this the way you need to done. Then you should be doing that way, and you cannot do that because you know the GitHub, right? So the Git technology and everything. So when you are going to push your code to the Git, and someone from your senior is going to review that, they will identify this need to be changed. He has to make that change only, then he is going to merge your code into the main branch. So you have to definitely follow that. I hope that's the answer you are looking in the need. Yes, right. Okay, there's another question. What are the projects that we need to do normally before applying for dev job? Can you give example? Okay, do the project which has most impact about the technology side if you're going to be a dev. So you should have the problem solving skills also, like that you have to find the problem in the society or in the environment and give a solution. That's also a plus point. You are adhering to that. But doing that, you have to use the latest technologies you can use. Don't just create a web page with like entering data. So lots of people come with the hospitalization systems, taxi systems. Taxi system was a new thing around 2018, 17. Now it's not new. Everyone can track your location through the mobile. Now they know the APIs is there. So it's not a new. Big data is a new thing. Crypto is a new thing. Blockchain is a new thing. Do something with that. Cloud company is there. Serverless is there. Okay, you can do something like that. Any question? I think I answered that. Okay. Anything else?
Priyanka, do you have any questions? Priyanka, are you there?
Okay, a question. Will they ask us to coding during interviews? So, okay, some companies there, in my opinion, they shouldn't do that, but some companies are doing that, and they are giving some aptitude test as well. Aptitude test is fine. Coding during the interviews, it is cannot do actually, because I cannot code when someone is looking at my screen. So, but asking you to complete a task within 1 hour or something and send them back, that's okay, and you should do that, because nowadays there are so many competition to enter the market and enter the corporate world. And aptitude is also fine. You should do that because they are going to challenge your mind with that. Yeah, coding, there was some interviews they are going to ask, but I don't think the freshers they are going to ask. We don't ask that from the freshers, mostly on the leads and uppers. Okay, what is the interviews perspective of asking the question, what is your expected salary? Lahiru? Okay, there's a question like this. What is the interview's perspective of asking the question, what is your expected salary?
I mean, in my opinion, it could be a trap. Because usually people ask you this question because they either want to know what your competitors are paying, or do you have an idea. It also can be just asking you if you know the market rates. So you definitely have to, even if you're not sure, you have to seem confident, and also you have to be open to negotiations, and also get the opinions of the company as well. But it definitely can be used as a trap. So be very smart in answering that question. What about you, Charlie? What about your perspective on the
We are not going to ask that, right? So
right?
no, it's not ethical for us to ask that, right?
Mhm.
So yes.
Yeah.
How to be a valuable asset to the company as an employee by being versatile and good, or being absolute best at one thing. Okay, it's not like this valuable to the company is not just you working in the coding or QA or UX. It's about the attention you can give to the company itself, because now I'm doing that, right? So I'm and myself, like myself and the Lahiru, we are just exploring out of the company. This is not the task we are assigned to do the sessions out or anything. We are just trying to manage the team and do whatever the roles which is needed and those things. But this is the responsibility to the company. So here we are going adding value to the company, right? Doing the sessions out, those kind of things. So that is the part you can add value to the company as an employee. One point, not just being a coding and everything. Coding and everything, whatever you do, you are hired to do, that you should do, right? According to the given instructions. It's not just you are like isolate person in the team. You will be get a lot of help to learn what you are doing and what things need to be done, what other ways need to be done, because I cannot collaborate on that, because it depends on the company to company. Within the company, team to team, it depends. But being an asset to the company is like doing these things out of the company and bring a brand name to the company. Yeah, those are there. I think Lahiru also can add on to that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There is also this question when if you want to become a like do things after working hours. This is why it's very important to also explore the values of the company that you're joining, and the company vision and mission and what they want to achieve. When it aligns with your personal goals, it makes it a lot easier. So if you're staying late, or if you have to go and be a, like Chaman said, a brand ambassador to the company, it doesn't seem like work because it seems like you are, part of the company. So if you join a company where, for example, when you get asked questions like what are your salary expectations or things that kind of trap you, and you can get a sense of, okay, these companies are not that great, then it becomes very difficult for you to be that ambassador, or be that go that extra mile and be an asset. So on the mindset and personal well-being side of things, you definitely pick a company that you align with as well, as opposed to giving you technical skills, but also helping you with your values. So yeah.
Okay, there's another question. And then opening is still for the DevOps internships and next. Okay, I don't think we are just hiring for DevOps only now, because we are going for more like full stack, but some teams there are DevOps, but actually I'm not aware of there we have internships available. Any questions? I know you are a lot of asking questions. That's good. Right. Okay. Question again. A few months ago, there was a competition called Hackitude. Yes, you know that, right? So organized by the Dotitude community of the 99X. It was focused on Node.js. In 99X, focused more on Node.js full stack developers. No, I'm from the team which is about C#, and there were a lot of two big teams and a lot of small teams in Java. We have Node. It's not about the tech stack, so we don't depend on the tech stack. Tech stack is selected based on the requirement of the project, not based on the who have the experience on this technology. It's not like that. So it's not that. It's a hiring manager. Okay, this is for Lahiru. Does a hiring manager specifically look for third-year student when hiring for internship?
I think that's a technical question, though.
Is that?
Because in terms of HR, it's more of, whether you're a cultural fit. In terms of
We
required
asked from the
personality,
hiring manager. That's why. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I will answer that as well. Third-year student when hiring for internship, because it's about the company policies, right? Most of the time it goes like this. So in 99X, we need to have the company's letter or something for that this student is coming for the internship. Otherwise, we need to have the degree or the degree certificate. So it depends on the company actually. Some companies, they don't do that. They just hire anyone, whoever also undergraduate. I don't see any problem doing that. That's why it's based on the company policy.
All right. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to email Mr. Chamil. So thank you very much, Mr. Chamil Kadambi. So please take your token of appreciation presented by IEEE Computer Society Student Branch Chapter of IIT with HANA.
Thank you, guys. I'm really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session right now. So we believe that you may have taken the maximum advantage of today's session. So stay tuned for all the upcoming sessions conducted by IEEE Computer Society Student Branch Chapter of IIT. Thank you, stay safe, and have a good night.